What's going on, guys? Today, I really wanted to dive into mindset. What are the building blocks that you need to have the right mindset? When we talk about mindset, I think that people have a different definition to mindset. Those that want to think of mindset as being that thing that you need to achieve your goals are absolutely correct. But mindset can also mean the other side. What do I mean by the other side? It means that mindset can be the things that are also inhibiting you from having the success that you want. And sometimes I don't think that we really bring awareness to that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, one of the things that I think and I talk to a lot of athletes about is being aware. What does being aware mean? Being aware means that you understand the consequences and for the decisions that you make. That's what awareness is. Being self-aware of oneself about the decisions you make, about where those decisions are going to take you, and what does it take for you to do to get to those places. This is awareness. Now, for us to be conscious, this is something else. For example, when you're conscious about something, you understand that those things have consequences, or the decisions that you make also have an outlet to a whole lot of things that you can dive into. But you have to think about awareness and consciousness are two different things. When you're aware at the moment, but consciousness is what's going to give you that decision. Now, what I often see is that people have no dissociation between the conscious part and the awareness part. Because you're so unaware, you're not conscious of it. And these things can often get in our way of having the right mindset. Because if we're not aware of the decisions that we're making, then we're not definitely going to be conscious of it. Consciousness is more like you having an intuition. It has to do more with you being spiritual. You have to be spiritual with yourself, with the internal things that lies within you. But for you to be conscious of it, you have to think that there's going to be times where, you have to ask yourself, why am I feeling demotivated about this? And that's where you have to tap into what are you conscious of, right? I'm conscious that I'm not getting my sleep at night. I'm not eating the right foods. I'm not putting the right structure in my schedule in order for me to be successful, right? So in order to have the pathway to be motivated and to have the right mindset, we first have to be aware of the decisions we're making and the consequences that come with it. And then we have to be conscious, right, of who we are and what those decisions mean to us and how they affect us. Those are two things we want to tackle and be aware of and conscious of course. Another thing I wanted to get into is internal awareness and external awareness. What does this mean? And I know I bring up awareness a lot, but internal awareness is what I think of myself. And this is really important. And this is something I feel that I preach a lot. This is what I preach most about. I think that internal awareness is the most important thing. Okay? Why? Because it's really what you think of yourself that gives you the layout to everything else. It's not what other people think about you. That's external awareness. You having it's outside of you. Those are things you cannot control. What people think of you, how people perceive you. Now, is it important for you to care about external awareness? I think that there is some importance to it, absolutely, because without you being aware of that or conscious of it, you don't know how you might be affecting other people by your decisions. You might be very internally aware of your emotions and how it makes you feel. But sometimes being so internal doesn't allow you to have an external perspective. And this is all this comes down to is the perspective, being able to put on the different lens and see things in a different way. That way you're not closed in and with one point of view and not getting anywhere. Understand that when you see it from different perspectives, you're going to be able to get to the same place you want to get to. But sometimes it's easier ways to go through other ways, right? So having this internal perspective about yourself, this internal awareness, is really going to allow you to have the self-belief about what you are capable of doing. When you're internally aware, you don't allow the external factors to move you from where you're trying to go. And this at times can be hard because we we're animals that, we need visual feedback. We need auditory feedback. We need sensory feedback. We need constructive criticism. We need feedback in general to get better. But sometimes we're not really aware that we're paying attention to our phones for so long, right? We're looking at our phones for 2 hours at a time, and sometimes by the end of the day, you look at the markers on your iPhone, and it says that you've been, on your phone for 6-8 hours, and that's not going to be healthy for you. So you have to be aware of those behaviors, correct? So, external perspectives of what people think of you can definitely have an effect on you, right? You're talking about being aware. If you're aware how people are going to perceive you, you have to be able to tunnel in and focus on your internal awareness. I like to, I'm a big sports fan. So growing up, I've always been into sports. I remember competing and having to go to other competitors' home courts, and you can feel the tension when you go inside someone else's home field advantage, right? So you go there, you're the external person, you're the person that is not welcomed, and that energy is something that's felt. It goes for the same thing for people that are in professional sports. People that are in combat fighting, they go into these arenas and people are screaming at them, or maybe you have to go to a different country and people are not welcoming you. Well, it's part of the environment, but doesn't mean that you have to take that in personally, right? Maybe it fuels you, maybe it doesn't. So you have to understand what you're going to let in and let out. And that brings me to my next thing is whatever garbage you ingest is the garbage out, So then the ingestion of whatever you're perceiving or whatever you're intaking is what you're going to keep. You're going to digest. So at times you have to really be mindful of these little, attitudes that you're going to have towards certain things. Because it definitely does the difference when you're trying to get ahead and stay positive on the right track. I often talk about you have 3 lives, and I'll explain to you what that means. Not saying that we have literally 3 lives, but my perspective to it is that we have our public life. This is how people see us. This is our external life, right? People's perceptions. What's your job? What do you do? What clothes do you like to wear? Right? When you wake up every day and you put on clothes, you're making a statement regardless of you not caring to make a statement. You're subconsciously putting on something that makes you feel comfortable. And that's how you're perceiving yourself to the world. And those are things that sometimes you are probably not conscious of, but that you wear it. You wear how you feel. You wear how you look. Right? I see that all the time in fitness. Right now I have a sweater on. I feel cozy. That's where I'm at with it, right? So those are things that you definitely want to be conscious of, but that's your public life, is how people perceive you, how people perceive me through the lens of this camera. Do people think I'm a great speaker, or do people think that I'm not? That's people's perceptions of me. But then you have your public life. Your private life. And your private life is what goes in at home. What goes on at home? What are the conversations and the intimate circles that you share things with? Friends, family. What are the core values of things that you have that are internal? Those are the private life that no one knows about you. Now, this is something that you share with only a certain group of people. You don't share it with everybody. And it's important to distinguish a public life and a private life, because besides those two, the last one is a secret life. And maybe I should find a better word than secret, but I think about a secret life because I would say this is a life that you live inside your head. This is the subconscious life. This is what you tap into when you drive in your car. You're not playing music. This is when you're, staring at nothing and you're just thinking. You're reflecting. If you ever get the time to do that, now think about it. Those are like all different kinds of modes. It's as if we were in a car. You have different gears. So when you're by yourself, you're on one gear. You can function on that one gear, right? But if you're not conscious of it, you might be functioning on gear 3 by yourself. And this can cause a lot of stress and anxiety, right? But then you have your private life, and this is with family and friends. And you might be on gear 3. And then you go on to the public life. And you've been on gear 3, and you're already carrying all these things on, and look how your reaction might be towards the world. It's important that we understand these things and compartmentalize these mind frames, because this is something that helps me. This is something I talk to my members and I preach to my athletes about, to our trainers, to our friends. This is what we talk about. These are the positive mindsets that I like to bring up in conversation, and we like to integrate in our training. Because I think that when you're not doing this, it's always going to be fitness around how I look, opposed fitness on how I feel. The relationships that you have with training when you're young, when you're, I see it. I see it on TikTok. I see it on these reels, is the perception of me looking a certain way. Opposed to, as you get older, you're training for you to feel better, for you to function and optimize your body to the best of its ability. So the mind frame changes, and so does everything else. But it's important that we have the right understanding of what does it mean to be aware? What does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to have a private life, a public life, and a secret life? What does it mean to have all these things? What's internal awareness? What's external awareness? What's all these things? What does it mean to me? Right? So there's some quotes that I want to share with you guys. We are what we think of ourselves. I'll repeat that again. We are what we think of ourselves. No one can change that about us. We can't have someone put a different focus on that. If you think that you're bad at something, you're going to be bad at it. No one else is telling you this but you. When you go try a new sport, you go golfing for the first time, you get on some skateboard for the first time, you go skating for the first time, and you say, I suck. Your perception is that you suck. No one else is telling you that. You're telling yourself that. That's what you're expressing. Opposed to having the mind frame of, I'm learning something. That changes everything. So we are what we eat. I know we mentioned that a lot, and you guys have probably heard of that, but we are what we eat. If you eat certain foods and you feel a certain way after, you know why. If you eat clean and you take care of yourself eating the foods that come from earth, you're going to feel better. There's no way that you feel bad eating real non-processed foods. When you eat processed foods, you feel processed. You feel like that. You feel very fatty because you're eating very fatty foods. You are what you eat. And last one is you are, or we are, what we surround ourselves with. You are the energy you keep. You are the energy you keep. You are what you eat, and you are what you think of yourself. These three things I feel that can really change the mind frame of someone if you really pay attention to it, right? And the last thing I want to share with you guys, whether you decide to be positive or you decide to be negative, your body's listening. Whether you decide to be positive or you decide to be negative, your body's listening. If you're being negative already, your body's going to be negative. You're going to get into the gym. You're going to feel slow. You're going to feel sluggish, right? What if you start thinking more in a positive way? Like, I want to stretch. I want to feel good. I want to open up, and then I want to get into it. Let me slow it down today. That's being aware. Because if you're not aware of it, you're going to have those consequences. And if you're not conscious of those consequences, then now we're in a spiral of not knowing where we're going. And motivation is driven by two things: intensity and direction. Okay. So, guys, I hope you guys like this kind of content. I really try to bring you guys something that has a good understanding of how we all work. But everybody has a different understanding of how we work. Some people like to read books about, self-help books. Some other people like to read novels and, get lost in that world. I like to break things down in this format because from a psychology point of view, there's always going to be little things that you can work on and theories. But when you dumb it down and you simplify it, I think that we can have better success with it. And it's not about being perfect at things. It's about trying our best at things. I think that when we have that focus on trying our best, we don't get disappointed. So if you guys like this, show some love.